Welcome to the First 40 Sports Show with the Goon Squad. It's Ice, Water, and Puma on this episode. Let's go to hot takes first. What's your hot take this week, Ice?
Man, the hot take is college football playoffs. Um, I think just in general, what an amazing day. What just amazing opportunities for the weekend. So, I mean, what do you think? What do you take about? What do you think about that overall as to what college football meant for the last couple of days?
Well, I originally wasn't going to watch because I was pretty much done with it. I said it on a few episodes, but I got a chance to sit down. Actually, I was doing some work around the house and watch the Alabama game against Michigan. And I thought Michigan had a chance to kind of run away with the game, but Alabama kind of hung in pretty tight. And to be perfectly honest, I'm glad Alabama's out. I'm glad they lost in that fashion. I don't want to hear crying Nick Saban about crying getting into the playoffs. And I thought the better team won, especially Michigan showing a lot of courage and strength, saying, "Hey, we're not going out um, to to Alabama because Alabama is supposed to be the team that is the champion every year." But to me, as a college football fan, you really get sick and tired of seeing Alabama in the playoffs every year, and I didn't feel like they deserved to be there. And also watched the Texas Washington game, and I actually am going to be picking Washington over Michigan because I can't see Michigan hanging with the speed of Washington and those three receivers. Washington is going to give up defense. They play defense when they have to play defense to stop you at the end of games. But I could just see that being a high scoring game. And you may be able to cover one, two of those receivers, but you can't capture them all. And so I just see that Washington, the Huskies' team speed is just far greater than Michigan, even though Michigan had a great season. I see Alabama's being very fast, but not as fast as Washington. And Penix Jr. is something special. So I like the way they went about beating Texas. Texas is a strong team. They're going to be back stronger next year. But I've seen Washington almost lose, a few games this year, and they just find a way to win. And you got to be impressed with that. It's almost like their team is destined to win a national championship.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100% from the standpoint of you look at Michigan and they're playing on that rah rah us against the world type situation, and they stepped up. They beat Alabama. Alabama was not able to make the plays. They got them over the hump against Georgia that might have had a subpar performance in that game as well. But Michigan's keep pushing the line, found a way to win. So you got to take your hat off to that and acknowledge that. But like you said, I mean, how many games have we watched Washington being right on the edge, and you just knew the team was going to beat them? I mean, everybody had put them out to the pasture, ready to take them down when it came down to the rematch with Oregon, right?
Right.
And it just keeps going on and on. And I think Michael Penix Jr. is such a quality quarterback. He's so experienced that he's just not afraid of anything. And he throws probably one of the most prettiest balls that you've seen in college football. And they find ways, they're routing. As you said, the defense has not really knocked your socks off as far as impressing you. But when they needed to play, the other thing too that really kind of surprised me is with Texas is you're driving down for that last, trying to make that last possession to win the game, and they got close within the red zone. It's just like they just got lost.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't know how to play
Yeah,
football at that particular
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. And as much as they want to praise Sarkisian for being this great coach and getting them ready and everything, I'm like, this is the moment that you had the opportunity to show the world that no longer am I under the tutelage of Saban. I'm making my own mark. You've been playing this team. Everybody talking about how they beat Alabama by 10 and all this and that, and you were dominant. You had another opportunity to showcase to the world that we're here. He didn't get it done. That just alone just kind of shows me that Texas was good, but how good were they? And was the reason why they lost is that a lot of it on the coach. It makes you wonder a little bit about that. I mean, Washington's a very good team, and they were not afraid and would not be denied. But when you're making that last drive as Texas, I thought Sarkeesian would step his game up as a coach rally the troops and make sure they get it done. Instead, they fell short.
One thing I have to admit is that Alabama made the adjustments at halftime because they were getting Michigan was getting to Alabama's quarterback and just exposing him. And what bothered me about Michigan is that after Alabama made their adjustments, they didn't make adjustments back to put
Mm-hmm.
pressure on that quarterback to take away that game. And so that's why, and I don't know if it was just they were tired, they're fatigued, or they just didn't have the team speed to get to Alabama as Alabama started working faster and getting the ball down the field. One of the other things in my hot take this week is I know you, me, and Black have been going back and forth about the Florida State and Georgia game and how Georgia's coach said, hey, we got to get rid of these opting out because a lot of people were coming up to me like, oh man, see, Florida State didn't need to be in. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Florida State, a lot of players they voted on playing, but a lot of players opted out. They didn't play. A lot of the starters did not play. So Georgia was getting second and third string players in that 63. I think the three lost. I said, but I think Florida State decided, hey, we're going to go there, collect our check, eat a lot of good food, get presents, and we don't care about a glass full of oranges or
Yeah,
a
and I
boat
can see
full of oranges.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can see that. But off air, I tried to make the point that um, I understand people still think Florida State should have made it, and I get that, and maybe because they won 13 games, according to the if you look at on paper, I received the argument. But the other part I had to look at is uh, do you? And I think the committee, I'm not saying they're right, but they tried to say, I told y'all so. And that's why they matched up. Even though Florida State did what they did, they matched up Florida State and Georgia just to try to prove a point. It's like, okay, we did this and they opted out. Even if you bring in your third string quarterback, and if the second string quarterback who ended up jumping in the transfer portal, if he played, would that be enough? I still think it would have been enough if they would have made the playoffs. So we don't know. We don't know what we don't know, right? Because
yeah,
they did not have the opportunity.
yeah,
But I think that the committee will say, look, we had two great games that were right on the edge. And we think they're going to be their substance, if you would, to say, see, I told y'all
yeah,
we did the right thing. And not only did we do the right thing for a more competitive game, then we're going to put Florida State in with Georgia. And I told the gentleman that was visiting Ohio from Georgia, I told him, a gentleman, I said, that's why they did that to show you, told you so. They don't belong here. And however you try to wrap it up, here's what we said. See, we told you.
yeah.
So was I think I'll say one real quick thing though. I think in order you talked about the opt outs. I think one of the things should happen is they should move the portal, transfer portal up before the bowl game.
Why is that?
Just because I think if you make guys make a decision prior, they won't just they bounce. I mean, they might, but where are you gonna go? I mean, like for instance, I mean, you can say what you want to, but Cal McCord left Ohio State, right after their bowl game, or no, prior to their bowl game, the week before, or whatever. But my point of it is, if you do it early enough, if that's where you want to go, right? But you can't. I'm gonna say this, and I know we talked about this earlier, and it really is about the players. They can do what they want to, but the people are going to say it's the service that the players did that right before. So if you go. I see it both sides. I think the players can do whatever they want to do when they want to do it. But I think the issue is so close to the ball game, it just kind of for the fans and other people too with the hell with the sponsors. For the fans, I think it's tough to watch. Because I'm telling you, when you're watching Ohio State uh, lose to Missouri, people are losing their minds.
Yeah, that I mean, if that game meant something, no way Missouri beats Ohio State. No way. if it meant something, if it meant, hey, a championship, not a bowl championship, because those don't mean anything. If it meant something that, hey, we get closer to our goal of winning champions, there's no way Missouri would have blown out or beat Ohio State. And you could see, I could see the coach on the sidelines, Ohio State's coach. He wasn't even impressed. He wasn't even impressed about the game. He's like, hey, we're gonna let some players play that haven't played all year. We're gonna enjoy this time together, all the gifts and the perks of being in this bowl game. And also, we're gonna collect a nice good check and we're gonna go back home and everybody's gonna be happy. You get to play in a bowl game, you get to tell your grandkids, hey, I didn't win it, but I played in this bowl game. And so I see it as a dilemma where if you're not playing for anything, you're going to see a lot more of this. I think the transfer portal should be put behind after the season is over, after the championship season is over, to be honest with you. Because, but I can see why they're doing it now because colleges are recruiting, they're getting their players, they're trying to see who's going to be in the lineup for next year. So I see why they do it this early, and people opt out and say, "Hey, I want my chance to play for this team." But yeah, I think it hurts the advertisers because they're putting up this, especially Florida State and Georgia. They put up this great, you know, matchup, and then nobody watched because of the blowout. I asked you a question, and I know both of us chuckled because I see the committee moving the goalposts every time they have the selection. So I'm so glad they getting the 12 games or 12 teams next year. But I ask you, if Notre Dame was in the same predicament as Florida State, would they, would Alabama being able to jump over Notre Dame to get that last spot? And I'm thinking, no, they're not, which leads me to believe that it's about money, not competition.
Well, I mean, I get that, and I understand politics and stuff like that too. But um, I still think the committee would have taken Alabama over Notre Dame because of the factor that you won a good game, and it's what it was. I mean, like I told you before, the one thing I said prior was that the Florida State team that we saw that won 13 games, their starting quarterback, was with them for 10 of the 13, right? So they simply were not the same team. Notre Dame, I know they got all the rah too, and their alumni think that they deserve to be there, and it's all about the money too. I get that, but even with their money, I'm gonna flip it like I told you off air. The other part about the money too is I don't if the Notre Dame team was to lose their quarterback and be down to a freshman quarterback that's not played, they, instead of them being about the money and making sure they deserve to be there so they can be seen on TV, I think some of their alumni, you might think I'm crazy, and I'm gonna say it too. Some of their alumni will be calling into the committee going, "We ain't denied and we ain't trying to go because we don't want to be embarrassed." There's a lot of pride when it comes to Notre Dame alumni.
Yeah,
You're in Chicago, you
yeah.
know this.
And I would,
And
that's why I said there was no way that if Notre Dame was in the same predicament as Florida State with a freshman quarterback, the coach playing quarterback, that all the money and all the prestige and all the political power that Notre Dame has is much stronger than Alabama and Nick Saban.
I agree with that 100%. But on the flip side of that, like I told you, I think the money is they would say, we ain't trying to be embarrassed because they don't want to be embarrassed. You know that. They know that. I mean, you could say, yeah, we deserve to be in that playoff and whatnot. And you could even say the prestige and the money, as you said earlier, would trump over Nick Saban in Alabama. But they don't want to be shellacked.
But then you got the Michigan Notre Dame rivalry too. Can't be denied.
But true, but the honest part of it is the talent. If they gonna go in that game and Michigan beats them 45-7, is Notre Dame still poking out their chest? No, they don't. I'm telling you. I mean, you say what you want to. I don't think the majority of the alumni, even though they may be crazy fans about the Irish, they do not want to be blitzkrieg and ridiculed all the way that they would be done in the ball game on national TV or in the playoffs.
I mean,
I
what
don't
would
think
be
so.
what would be different than previous years of them getting shellacked in the playoffs? It wouldn't have been any different.
I mean, I agree with you 100%, but they don't like it. Well, you're right. But but that don't mean because it won't be any different that they like it. They didn't like it then, and they damn sure not gonna like it now. What I mean, think about that. Why would you want to be in a game that you know your team? I mean, and I have nothing but love and appreciation for Liberty, right? But when I saw that game, Liberty and Oregon on the marquee to play in that ball game, and I said I think that's great for Liberty. They get their check, whatever. But even if Bo Nix didn't play, right? Even if Bo Nix didn't play, I was like, Liberty? Liberty. And the same way I told you before, that when I brought back to the Florida State Louisville, Florida State Louisville game that Florida State barely got by Louisville. Louisville goes out and plays against USC, and Caleb Williams didn't play. The other guy coming off the bench for USC threw 6 touchdowns. There's sometimes, to me, that talent just supersedes anything you talk about. It just does. And I think that's what the committee was like. Technically, Florida State, we say 13-0 belongs, had the opportunity to go in there and play. Same way with Notre Dame. If they did whatever, they belong in there. But I think the committee was like, we tired of watching blowouts. We think this talent supersedes anything else. And we do not want to have a blowout in a playoff game. And they got lucky because they were right to a point. But you don't want to continue on and on and on to go, well, just because we think it's the right thing because it's Notre Dame. Right. And I agree with you. But at the same time, last point on this is that's why we're going to 12 teams in the playoffs. Because with UCLA, Oregon, Washington, and USC, like joining the Big Ten, right? You have got to open the door for more teams. So let's say we only got 4 teams, but hell, the SEC got the 3 of the best teams, and Big Ten got the other one. What about the ACC? You can't keep doing that. So it's to say that if we know that the games are going to be competitive, some teams deserve to be there. You can't just say it's 4 anymore, because now you're having button heads. Let's say Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, and USC, all quality teams that deserve to be challenging for the playoff. If you cut it down to 4, you literally are stopping the competition. So you're going to do that to put everybody together so you can make a super conference. You have got to open up the playoff opportunities for more teams to really prove themselves. That's one thing I think this 12 does. Are there going to be a couple blowouts? Yes. But a 6, so what I'm saying to you is a 6th-ranked team or a 7th-ranked team in the country has the possibility to win it all.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying now. And they are going to be more deserving because when you bunch up all those teams, like in the Big Ten, you got to give them at least a chance. Is it their fault that you're in the same conference with 3 super teams? You just never know. It's like if somebody says, okay, we're in the Big Ten, USC goes, we got to play Ohio State, we got to play Michigan, and then we got to play UCLA, and we're good. Our conference is just loaded. Yeah. Same way with the SEC. And I think that's why they have expanded to 12, because in order to be fair, and if you really want to see who the best teams are, you have to open the door to allow everybody to play that's worthwhile at the 12 and let them work it out. That's why you do it. You don't go, we only got 2 teams. It don't make sense.
On a side note, Florida State is trying to leave the ACC, and the ACC is trying to sue. My prediction is Florida State will be independent, just like Notre Dame. They were independent before, and I guess the ACC didn't afford them a chance to get into the playoffs, or wasn't a strong enough conference to kind of stay in the playoff picture. So they're removing themselves from the ACC. I think it's a good move, and I always wanted Florida State to stay independent. When they went to the ACC, kind of thought it was a little stretch, but they were anticipating the ACC would be one of those stronger conferences, and this year it proved not to be.
I hear you, but I think that might be if they do decide to go to be independent, Florida State it is, that's going to be a lived situation for them. And I have one last thing to say about this. There's always room at the Big Ten, baby.
Yeah, I think they would probably because one of the things I loved about Florida State and start following them is that they will go anywhere and play anybody, and so that's why I love them about it. I couldn't say the same thing about Notre Dame because they picked and choose who they really wanted to play, but Florida State, when they were in their heyday with Coach Bowden, we will go to your home field and we will kick your butt, and we will go anywhere to play anybody. And I think that's where they want to be. I think that's what they want to get back to. So yeah,
We got room at the end, bro. We got always got room at the
Big
Big
Ten,
Ten.
Big Ten's too full. Big Ten's too full.
What you talking about?
Big Ten too. You can't have a
Imagine,
Florida team playing
imagine,
Midwestern California teams. No,
imagine,
the state is
imagine
not.
Florida State in the Big Ten. Oh my
No,
God.
I shudder the thought. No, no, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Be independent and play Notre Dame every year. That's what I want you to do. All right, let's go to the NBA. And the Celtics are the top team in the East, but your boys OKC beat the Celtics, which people are kind of saying, hey, this OKC Thunder team is pretty good. They're second in the Western Conference behind the Timberwolves. Denver falls into the third spot. But yeah, after the Thunder beat the Celtics, everybody's like, hey, wait a minute. The OKC Thunder? Wait a minute. This might be a team to be reckoned with. Your eye test, man.
Hey man, I've been trying to tell you about OKC for how long?
Well, a
I've
couple of
been
years now.
promoting it. I've
Mm-hmm.
been telling you about OKC. OKC, they have no fear. I mean, granted, I don't want to compare the same two teams because I think this team might be a little more talented than the old OKC team when they were young, with young Durant and Westbrook. They have no fear. They have no fear, and I like the way that they play. Coach is going on. He understands what's going on too. And I told you people were sleeping on Holmgren. Holmgren is a player, man. He's come around play. He has no fear. They just don't even know um, how to be fearful. It's almost like they don't they don't realize that they're not supposed to be this good. And the way that they play, I'm not saying they're going to win a championship, but you have to be excited about what they did and what they've done now. Stay the course. Don't do anything crazy. Just continue to win. Minnesota's still hanging around. You got to give them their love. Even Denver, OKC beat Denver too. Like I think the night before, 2 days earlier,
Yeah.
they beat Denver, and you beat Denver, and you beat Denver, and you beat Boston, and it took a 40-point performance from LeBron James. They're knocking on the door, man. I just don't want them to mess it up. Um, but still, Boston is Boston. Milwaukee are doing what they do. It's Miami's creeping up. Miami's in the fourth slot now, which is really crazy to me. You know, we were saying Miami was going to be really in trouble if they didn't get Damian Lillard, right?
Right.
They find themselves in the fourth position, and the Knicks make a trade, do what they do, but I think overall with this whole situation, Clippers are fourth right now. They're playing good ball. Sacramento is fifth. New Orleans is still sixth. I think right now, as we move in, getting closer to the All Star break, there's going to be a lot of parity, and you're going to see some movement. And I think this might be one of the most competitive playoffs we've seen in a long time. Because as much you want to say about Minnesota, I know we keep saying Denver doesn't get any respect. I don't think there's a clear cut favorite.
Yeah.
And it's going to be wide open. I am looking forward to if everything stays kind of status quo right now, the way it is, and some of these teams trying to get in with experience, trying to get in at the last minute. I think it's going to be total chaos. And it's going to be open the door for some great playoff basketball. So I'm excited, especially with OKC in the mix.
And I think there's going to be some trades coming down the trade deadlines. I know the Knicks said they're not finished with who they want to trade to fine tune that team up. And I know the Bulls have been trying to get in the trade talks with Levine and even some of the other players that they have. They've been talking to the Lakers and other teams. But I'm looking at the Western Conference, man. and I would have never thought the Timberwolves, Thunder. I knew the Nuggets would be there, but the Timberwolves and Thunder would be the 1 and 2 teams. And I know we're just past 30 games out of the season or a third of the season, but I didn't see that coming. And the teams that you thought that were going to be there, like the Lakers and the Warriors and the Grizzlies, they're like 10, 11, and 13 at this particular point. And it's just amazing to me how the NBA is kind of flip flop, and it does this every few years where it just flip flop, where the top feeders become the bottom feeders, and then they just switch. But I didn't expect it this soon. I expected the Cavaliers to be better this year. I expected the Hawks to be better this year with the trades they were making, but it's not working out there. I thought the Hawks made a bad mistake with getting rid of McMillan, and it's showing right now the way they're playing, and they play like they're not really coached really well. The Sixers, they put a thumping on the Bulls last night, and you never know what they're going to do, but they're sitting in that number 3 spot. The Bucks, 8-2 of the last 10. Celtics, they dropped one to OKC. So yeah, I think you're right. Parity is going to be the word in the NBA.
No doubt, no doubt. And I think that's going to make for great TV, and we're going to find out who's real. I mean, you think about the two of a team on the outside trying to make get a shot at the playoffs. Imagine Golden State with their elder statesmen trying to. That don't even sound right. I just say elder statesmen. We've always seen them as young, right? But them trying to make one more run at it, trying to get into the playoffs. That would be crazy. Memphis, according with what Ja's been trying to do, and trying to single handedly get them back on track. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And Zion shows up when he does. Hopefully, he'll get better for that team. But
That may be a
I,
trade in the making right there.
yeah, yeah. And then Knicks, he's yours. If they got the way they got rid of RJ Barrett,
Sending them to
hey, why not pick
Toronto,
up Zion?
sending them
Yeah.
home. I mean, yeah, he's from Canada, sending him home. I kind of saw that coming because at that 2 spot, they need a killer at that 2 spot, especially when you're playing in the East. And Quigley and him weren't bringing it. They weren't
Right.
bringing it. They don't have a killer instinct. I love them as players, but they just didn't have that killer instinct. They played more like a swing 3, both of them, than a killer 2. When I think of a killer 2, I'm talking about Michael Jordan killer 2. That's what I'm talking about. You gotta. I mean, just take the ball and say, "Hey, this is my game right now, and I'm about to take over." Now let's go to college basketball. Purdue still holding on to that number 1 spot, followed by Kansas, Houston, UConn, Tennessee. Got a chance to watch them. Really good team. Tennessee at number 5, Kentucky at number 6, Marquette at number 7, North Carolina at number 8, Illinois. I haven't been able to see Illinois this year, but I hear tell that they're a really good team. They're at number 9, and then Arizona drops from 4 to number 10. So I'm sitting here watching some of these teams and watching the college ranks. I know you talked about Duke last week. They were ranked number 16. They ranked number 4 now. A lot of people aren't talking about Memphis. Florida Atlantic dropped 1 to another Florida team last week. Baylor, who was ranked 17, dropped to 18. Teams that I'm not recognizing, I haven't seen yet. I have to admit, I haven't seen that. James Madison, who's 13-0, haven't seen them yet. You usually see teams like that in the tournament, and then you discover them there. But I want to see these teams that are popping up in the top 25. And here's the shocker for me. Gonzaga is 24. I mean, they were 13th last week. They had dropped to 24th. They have a 9-4 record. And if they're not careful, they're going to drop out of the top 25. San Diego State dropped out the top 25. So there are teams that are not in the top 25 that are dangerous, but there are teams in this top 25 are just not familiar to me. Not familiar at all. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough all the way around. You watch Arizona losing the way that they did a couple times, kind of wondering what's going on there. Like I told you, teams like Kentucky's getting their big man back, and they're gonna be a problem. They're going to be a problem. from that standpoint. And like I told you, Florida Atlantic beat out Arizona, but you kind of brought them back down to size, if you will, when you end up losing the game to another Florida team. Teams I think that could really cause an issue. I think UConn's just young.
Hmm.
They're just young, but they're very talented. Um, the teams like the James Madisons of the world, Texas can cause some problems in the tournament. If Wisconsin makes it, they can cause problems because they have no fear. They don't care. They have no fear. Um, Purdue, Kansas are the heavyweights. Houston as well. But then after that, I think it comes to crapshoot because they want to talk about Marquette, but I think Marquette's lack of size is going to hurt them down the line. So it just really depends on what team gets hot at the right time and how many games can they go play the 6 games and get hot. So I think that's part we need to look at as far as that's concerned. Again, like I said, Duke was 16, now they're what, 14? They slowly inching up, slowly inching up. People go, well, Duke, I'm like, they have some players. So if I'm Duke, I'm saying I'm not worried about it. We'll slowly get there. The other sad thing about it is uh, Illinois is a very good team, from my understanding, but they're right now in a holding pattern as far as how good they can be. Because I think one of their star players is allegedly bumped some charges
Oh
for
wow.
an assault. Yeah, he right now they suspended him, indefinitely till they can figure this thing out. And there's a great chance that this young man may not be back on the court anytime soon. So that changes their whole wave of things as far as Illinois is concerned. So that's unfortunate on all levels, but that's going to dramatically decide whether or not how good they can be.
Folks, let me run down some of the teams that I know some of you never predicted would be in the top 25. You got number 12, BYU. You got 13, Colorado State. You got 17, Florida Atlantic. You got 19, James Madison. And you got 23, Providence. Those are teams that I did not anticipate being in the top 25, and they're there, and they're worth watching. Let's go to some of the spotlight players that you need to take a look at, players to watch. You have Boogie Ellis from USC. He's a senior guard. He's averaging about 19.5 points a game. You have David Jones from Memphis. He's a freshman. He's a forward, averaging about 21.4 points a game. And you have Kevin McCullough Jr. from Kansas, a 6'7" senior, averaging senior guard, averaging 20.4 points a game. Let's go to the women's um, rankings. And the women's rankings, South Carolina is just cruising. They're just cruising. Right now, as we are doing this show, they are leading ECU 73-36. They're just crushing teams, crushing them. So it's South Carolina followed by UCLA, North Carolina State, Iowa just had a big game last night. Colorado, Baylor, LSU number 7, Stanford number 8. You have USC and Texas number 10. And your eye test, if you've seen any games from the women's college ranks.
Yeah, I was able to watch that UCLA USC game. Uh, Freshman Juju Watkins is just playing her tail off as a heck of a talent, but UCLA is whoo, what a group, what a group. They kind of stood by and watched Juju do her thing, but in the end they came together collectively and they played so well together. I think they would cause a lot of problems down the line, and they won the game. It wasn't pretty, but they were able to get it done. I was surprised by watching. I saw a little Colorado. Colorado's not too bad either. Um, Baylor, I think Baylor was it Baylor that beat Tennessee?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it was Baylor that beat Tennessee. But that game along with some of those games were just kind of real tight, and trying to understand that too. And what I find ironic is no matter how far they go, the media and those that are voting for the rankings, they refuse to let go of UConn. UConn's 10-3, and I understand, I get it, but they always try to find a way to keep UConn around, even though they may not be as great as they were, and of course injuries happen all the time with some of their best players. but they always kind of had that cushion. Um, I think LSU can be a major problem because of the factor that what they've been through, and just they have a chip on their shoulder. I think that cause a problem. I do like Southern Cal the way that they play. Texas is a very good team. Iowa because of Miss Clark, but we'll see how that holds up because they're 13-1. Um, Teams like Michigan, Indiana, there's a lot of competition in the Big Ten as well. I still need to see it before I just anoint Iowa. I know they're winning their games, but it may be a little bit more difficult for them in the sledding when it comes down to the rest of the regular season.
All right, let's players to watch. You mentioned one, Caitlin Clark. She's a 6 foot senior, and she has a 3 point percentage of 60%. And she showed that in a game earlier this week. She's averaging 30.5 points a game out of Iowa. You have J.C. Sheldon out of Ohio State, 5'10" senior guard, 19.1 points a game. And then I hope I'm saying this name right, Hannah Hidalgo from Notre Dame, freshman guard. She's about 5'6". She's a shorty, but she's putting in those points, 23.8 points a game. So those are the women to watch in college basketball. I know you know a little bit about JC Sheldon. Can you let I know you've seen a few games with her. Can you let the folks know how good this senior guard is?
Well, the most important thing about it, I would like to say about her is the improvement, right? Last year she was hurt, had some severe injuries and didn't know she was going to come back, but she really worked her tail off to come back and help them in that tournament run last year. But this year she's taken her game to another level. You can tell that she's one of the upperclassmen, and she's worked on her shot. She's able to create a shot and get to her own shot, and she's relentless. She has decent speed, pretty good speed, but she's relentless in her attack now. Uh, Ohio State, some of the other players are maybe not as fluid right now. They're still working through some things, but the one thing is she the opportunity to play again and coming off that injury. J.C. Sheldon is not. She has no fear. She has no fear. I watched her against UCLA in person. She's playing real strong, and she has a very high confidence level right now, and she's trying to push that through to her teammates. So no fear, and she's glad to be playing on that level. And I think she's going to do nothing but get better this season.
Okay, last second shot, sir.
Yep, last second shot is college football fans. I know y'all is excited about whatnot and everything like that too, but I'll say this. Um, we had two great games for the semifinals. I know other people are still mad that Florida State didn't get in. But my thing is, like I said before, and I'm gonna say it again, the way that this is coming down with the potential, I'm not trying to rain on the parade, but with the potential sanctions that may come down to the University of Michigan, how can you think that Jim Harbaugh will not be in LA with the Chargers? How can you think that? How can you not? Even if they don't win it, I know that's that 10-year contract sitting in Ann Arbor. How can you not think, particularly when Mr. Harbaugh ends up with a new agent that clearly has major ties to the NFL? Now, I'm not trying to show him off or anything like that, like somebody's nervous or scared, but all of these things are happening quietly, and he has the right to do what he's doing to move forward as he prepares his team for the national championship. But all these behind the scene things are happening with a brand new representation, things like that too. Almost as if he's planning his exit strategy to do whatever. He's setting himself up well as he prepares to make his decision to either stay in Ann Arbor or make another move back to the NFL. I see you, Jim Harbaugh. I see you.
My last second shot is goes out to college football fans, and also I got to do one shot. I'm gonna do this one first about NFL. We all know the games are you know fixed, but y'all used to make it where it was like Christmas and Santa Claus, where we still believed that the games weren't. But y'all making it so obvious now that it's turning a lot of folks off. So I know you're the only game in town, but it won't be that way if people start finding out that wrestling ain't real and the NFL is sports entertainment too. you will lose a lot of. You might get the younger folks, but the older folks will find something else to do because it's not their NFL anymore. So you better be careful on how you're setting these games up, and also for those who are betting on FanDuel and DraftKings, these games have to be tied to some of the parlays that they're doing because we're losing a lot of money off these parlays. Make your own parlays. That's what I say. College football, um, thankfully, you're going to 12 teams for the playoffs. That is the best decision you can make at this particular point because I think after this year, there are going to be a lot of teams that are going to kind of opt out bowl games because of a committee. I don't know who you have on this committee and what they know about football, but I think a lot of players are going to start opting out, and this is due to NILs and it's due to the transfer portal. Careful what you wish for. That's our show. We'll talk to you soon.